Hi there, Elise Dewsbury again in another one in my vlog series of how not to get feedback from Elise. I'm still in my little mini series about the work of a scene. I dealt with the moment before, delivering plot through exposition or action, and pointing forward. And now I want to talk about planting seeds. I had mentioned that pointing forward and planting seeds can sometimes seem like the same thing, and in some instances the same moment in the scene can be doing both things, but I think the purpose of them is a little bit different. Sometimes people call it laying pipe. I call it planting seeds, but another way to think of it is laying pipe. What that is dropping little bits of information for us along the way that is going to be important to us later on in the show. So I suppose not every scene absolutely has to be planting seeds, but it can certainly be useful. Um, and what it can do is save a lot of time for you at the end of the day when you need to wrap things up, that a lot of things don't need to be explained because you planted the information that you need about a character's past, about the way they react to something, about how they feel about a certain person, or anything like that. If you if you drop hints to us during a scene, and they can be slight, they can be tiny, they can be not very much, but they pay off later. It's not the same as pointing forward because it's not specifically about um, let's have a date next Tuesday, and then the next time we see them, they're on their date or they've made some reference to it. It's not that specific. It can be a moment of, oh my God, I'm afraid of spiders, and in scene two, and because she has an interaction with spiders, and then in you know, the climax of your show, there's an instance where the hero saves her from spiders, and she realizes she loves him. But you have planted the seed for us that she doesn't like spiders, so you don't have to explain that. So that's not quite the same as pointing forward. As you can see, there's some similarities, but it's a little bit different. I had a fun example in a movie I saw recently of a show that planted seeds in two slightly different ways. The movie is called A Quiet Place. It was the movie about sort of a suspense slash horror movie about um, aliens have invaded the country and the world, but they can't see you, they can only hear you, so as long as you're quiet they can't find you, and it's about this family that have survived by being very, very quiet. So there were a couple of moments of planting seeds that I thought were interesting in this movie. One is what I would consider to be an extremely overt seed planting. This was when a character was, and this is the kind of thing you'll see, I think, more often in a movie or a television show, because the camera can force you to look at something. That doesn't happen on stage quite so much. So there's a character who's walking down some wooden stairs into a basement room, and she's got bare feet, and the camera zooms in, and we see that there's a nail sticking up out of this wooden stair piece, and she steps down very carefully, but she doesn't touch the nail. But the camera has made us look at that, and if you've spent any time at all watching movies or television, a little light bulb is going to go off in your head saying, uh-oh, that nail's going to factor in at some point in the future. Someone's going to step on that nail and it's going to mean something. And of course it does later on in the movie when she's trying to be really quiet. She steps on the nail and is desperately trying to deal with her pain because she can't make any noise or the monster will find her. So that one's a little bit overt. It's pretty much impossible to do that kind of overt seed planting in a theatrical play, because your audience is further away and you don't have a cameraman who can force your audience to look at something. So you can't have the camera do a close-up on the key in the lock, or the knife lying on the table, or whatever it is that you want to set up for us, the seed that you want to plant for something that is going to get used later. Um, that's an almost impossible technique to use. Frankly, it tends to be a little heavy-handed in movies or TV because we're so used to it. We go, there was no reason for that shot. There was no reason to do a close-up on that piece of paper unless that's going to factor in later. And we're pretty smart about that. But you can't even use it in theater because you can't make me look anywhere with a camera angle. On stage, you can only make me look somewhere with noise or movement. If somebody yells or screams or jumps up and down, I will probably look at them, although even then you can't control me 100%. But otherwise, you cannot be sure that your audience will see this. So if it's important, you need to find a different way. Now, in the same movie, A Quiet Place, they also do something that I would consider as a much more subtle way of planting a seed, and which is something that you can use much more effectively in a theatrical piece. What the couple has two children. They have a boy and a girl, or I forget now exactly, but anyway, their elder daughter is deaf, and so it's a little bit harder for her to know whether or not she's in danger because she can't hear the monster rattling around. She doesn't know if noise is happening around her. So she doesn't know when her brother's toy is making noise. She doesn't know if her footsteps are making noise because she doesn't hear them herself. And so in some ways this puts her at a disadvantage to the rest of the family in terms of avoiding these monsters that can hear you or hear things around you. So the father in the story has been trying for a number of years to use what technology he has in this place that they're living to create some kind of an implant for her, a cochlear type implant that will allow her to hear because he thinks that it will make her safe. And so when that happens in the movie, that's all we think. She's not safe and Dad wants to make her safe. And I, for one, and I'm usually pretty good at picking up clues, it never occurred to me that there was anything more to that than just a character point. That she wasn't safe, not being able to hear, and Dad wanted to help her hear, and it was a point of conflict between the parents and children. I didn't think anything more of it. But later on in the movie, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen A Quiet Place, it turns out later that this implant that she starts wearing, I may get this wrong because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but when she's near these monsters, the implant gives off some kind of supersonic noise, which hurts her. I mean, I don't know that she hears it per se, but it's painful to her. But it's also incredibly painful to the monsters and makes them run away. So that was a seed that was planted or pipe that was laid for us by letting us know that she had this implant and that she didn't really like to wear it, and but the fact is that she had it. And then later on, it became very integral to the way that they were able ultimately to defeat these animals or save themselves from these creatures because of this implant and how it affected the animals. So to me, that was an example of a really clever way of planting a seed or laying pipe, because when it happened, we didn't immediately go, oh yeah, well that's going to be important later. And yet it was important later, but we had the information. So I think that's what you want to strive for. You want to strive for the kind of seed planting that seems so integral to the scene and to the moment and to the characters that it doesn't occur to us that it's going to be information that is going to be vital to our understanding or to a turning point in the show later. But we have the information, but we don't stop and go, oh, you're giving me that information because I'm going to need it later. That's the best kind, and it's not easy to pull off, but that's what I would recommend, that you're aiming for giving us information that's going to pay off later without us knowing at the time we're getting it that that's what it's for. So that's the challenge, and I think that will help make your scene better and make your seed planting and pipe laying much more effective. Thanks. See you next.